Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well, and thank you for being here. Okay, Virgo, not them. Of all the people, of all the directions this could have come from, of all the faces that could have appeared at the edge of your story carrying something significant, not them. And yet, and yet here we are, you and I, sitting inside the particular electricity of a truth that refuses to be organized into something comfortable, something expected, something that fits neatly inside the version of reality you had carefully constructed and were, until very recently, successfully inhabiting. There is a person, and everything you thought you understood about what they feel, what they want, what you mean to them may be about to be dismantled with a gentleness that somehow makes the dismantling more shocking, not less. Because the dramatic revelations, the ones you see coming from a distance, the ones that arrive on a tide of obvious tension and building pressure, those you can brace for. What is harder to brace for is the quiet one, the one that comes in an ordinary moment, in a voice you recognize, from a direction you had genuinely stopped watching. The one that finds you completely unprepared precisely because you had decided somewhere along the way that nothing was coming from that particular corner of your world. You decided wrong, not foolishly, reasonably, based on available evidence, based on every signal this person had given or had carefully not given, up until the point where something in them apparently shifted so completely that the signals changed, because that is what I am reading in the current running through your energy tonight, a change in them. A change that occurred in the private interior of someone who does not make changes loudly or publicly or with any advance warning, which is precisely why its effects, when they finally surface, land with the particular impact of something utterly unexpected. In the old symbolic language, the archetype that governs this kind of moment is the star falling, not the star as disaster as it is sometimes lazily interpreted, but the star as the thing that crosses the sky in a moment so brief and so bright that it reorders everything in its light. The shooting star does not ask permission, does not schedule itself for a convenient time, does not consult your expectations or your defenses or the careful story you have been telling yourself about how things stand between you and this particular person. It simply crosses, and in the crossing, it illuminates something that the ordinary light of ordinary days had not been bright enough to show. What is about to be illuminated involves this person's truth about you. Their actual truth, not the managed version, not the version that was designed to protect them from vulnerability or protect you from expectations that might not be met or protect the dynamic between you from the complications that honesty would inevitably introduce. The actual one, the one they carry when no one is watching, including sometimes themselves, the one that has been living beneath the surface of every interaction you have had with them, giving those interactions a weight, a texture, a charge that you may have noticed without being able to identify its source. The source is about to identify itself. And here is where I want to slow down and speak to the complexity of this, because I think the complexity is the most important part and the part most likely to be flattened in the initial wave of the revelation. When something unexpected comes from an unexpected person, the first instinct is often to try to fit it into an existing category. to say this is good news, or this is complicated news, or this is news I do not know what to do with. The mind reaches for a drawer to put it in, because drawers are how we manage the world. And a thing that does not fit any drawer is genuinely disorienting in a way that can override the content of the thing itself. Try, if you can, to resist the drawer, at least initially. Try to let what is coming sit outside the categories for long enough that you can actually feel what it is, rather than immediately organizing it into something manageable. Because what this person may be carrying toward you, this specific, surprising, utterly unscheduled arrival of their truth, deserves more than categorization. It deserves the full, unhurried attention of someone who is willing to be genuinely surprised, genuinely moved, genuinely rearranged by something they did not see coming. You have not been expecting this from them. Let us sit with why. The reason you had stopped expecting anything significant from this direction is itself a story about the history between you, about the patterns that formed, about the moments where something could have moved and didn't, about the signals you read and the conclusions you drew from them. Those conclusions were reasonable. I want to say that clearly, because there is a version of this narrative where the fact that you were surprised becomes evidence of some failure on your part, some failure of perception, some too quick writing off, some premature closing of a door. That reading is wrong. You responded to the information available to you. You made sense of what was shown to you, and what was shown to you until recently did not include what was actually happening beneath the surface of this person's relationship to you. That is not your failure of vision. That is their success at containment, the very containment that is now, for reasons they may not be able to fully articulate even to themselves, no longer working. Something cracked it open. Some experience, some threshold crossed, some accumulation of feeling that finally exceeded the capacity of the container, and what has been held is beginning to spill into the visible world in ways they can no longer entirely control. For some of you, what this person is about to reveal is something in the register of feeling, a depth of care, of attraction, of genuine and sustained investment in you and your well-being that goes considerably beyond what the surface of your relationship had suggested was there. Words that have been rehearsed and abandoned and rehearsed again in private, finally finding their moment. A courage that was not available before, or not sufficient before, not strong enough to override the fear of what speaking might change, becoming available now, becoming sufficient now, because the alternative of continued silence has become less tolerable than the risk of revelation. For others, what is coming is not romantic in its nature, but no less significant in its impact. A confession of something, an acknowledgement of something that was done or not done, said or not said, understood or misunderstood, that this person has been carrying the weight of without your knowing. A reaching toward honesty that crosses the distance of whatever has existed between you, tension, history, the specific and complicated geography of a relationship that has not always been simple in service of something they apparently consider more important than the comfort of continued ambiguity. Either way, what is coming your way from this direction carries the quality of something real, not performed, not strategic in the cold sense of the word, real in the way that things are real when a person has arrived at the point where pretending is no longer available to them, where the gap between what they feel and what they are showing has become too wide to maintain without a cost they are no longer willing to pay. I want to speak now to how you receive this, because the receiving matters as much as the revelation itself. And I feel in your energy a specific complexity around it that deserves to be addressed directly. There may be a part of you, the part that had settled, that had adjusted its expectations, that had constructed a version of your relationship with this person that did not include the possibility of this kind of movement that meets the revelation with something other than pure openness, with a guardedness, perhaps, a wariness born of the fact that when you had not been expecting anything, you had also not been in a position to be disappointed. And now, suddenly, you are in a position to be disappointed. And that exposure, the return of genuine vulnerability after a period of protected non-expectation, may feel almost as disorienting as the content of what is being revealed. This is worth naming because it is one of the more counterintuitive emotional experiences available to human beings. The discomfort that can accompany good news when the good news reactivates a vulnerability you had successfully managed to put to sleep. It is not ingratitude. It is not the wrong response. It is simply the nervous system recalibrating to a changed landscape. And it takes time. And the time it takes is not a problem. What matters is that the guardedness, if it arrives, is not allowed to speak for you before you have had the chance to actually feel what you think and want about this. Before you have sat with the revelation long enough for your own truth about it to become clear, because your truth about it matters, your response matters. Not as a performance for this person's benefit, not as a careful management of their feelings at the expense of your own honesty, but as the genuine expression of where you actually stand once the initial wave of surprise has moved through and something steadier is available beneath it. That steadier thing, whatever it turns out to be, whatever shape your genuine response takes when the dust settles, is what deserves to be expressed. And expressing it with the full clarity and self-possession of someone who knows their own worth is what turns this revelation from a moment into a turning point. Something is being handed to you from a direction you stopped watching. The hand extending it is real. The thing being offered is real. And the only question that ultimately matters, not the question of why now, not the question of why didn't they say this sooner, not the question of what this means for every previous interaction you have reinterpreted in its light, is the question of what is true for you. What do you actually feel underneath the surprise, underneath the recalibration, underneath the complicated human response to something unexpected arriving from an unexpected source? What is true for you? Sit with that question. Give it the time it deserves, because the answer you arrive at from a place of genuine stillness and genuine self-knowledge will serve you far better than any answer arrived at in the heat of the initial moment. And whatever that answer is, whatever your truth turns out to be, once you have had the space to find it, it deserves to be honored by you first. And then clearly and without apology by the person who finally found the courage to hand you something real from the direction you had stopped expecting anything from. Not them, and yet them. Life has a way of doing exactly this, of placing the significant things in the least expected hands, of routing the important arrivals through the doors we had quietly closed, of proving again and again that the map we draw of what is possible is always smaller than the territory. The territory just got larger, and what lives in the newly visible part of it may be something worth taking the time to explore. If this reached you at the right moment tonight, if something here named what you have been circling without being able to touch, stay close, subscribe, and come back, because the story that is opening up around you right now is one that deserves to be followed all the way through. And the next reading may be exactly what you need to navigate what comes after the unexpected arrives.